on today. You're going to hear some fabulous presentations from some colleagues within innovation, and you're also going to hear from the team in Welsh Ambulance. You're going to learn a little bit more about SBRI, what it means to you as a business and the benefits, and also learn a little bit more about the challenges that the team from Welsh Ambulance are facing. And that should then help you fill in your application form, which we're really looking forward to reading over the coming weeks. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all of our presenters today. I know some of you have had very late evenings, and we appreciate you finding the time in your really busy schedules to present. And also a big thank you to all of you who are attending the event today. So we've got a lot to get through. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Kieran, who's going to facilitate today's session. So thanks once again. And Kieran, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Linda. So good morning, everybody. Welcome. Before I start, I'll just run through a little bit of housekeeping. So today's event is being recorded and we will post this on the Simply Do portal. Your cameras and microphones have been disabled. You're going to hear from a few presenters today. So if you've got any questions, we ask if you can put those in the Q&A function. That should be on the top of your screens. And we kindly ask you not to use the chat, but the Q&A function only. So we'll collate all of those questions and at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. Okay, thank you. So my name's Kieran Jagpal. I'm a project manager from the SBRI Centre. I'm very excited to be here today and present this challenge to you all. This is our website for anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about what we do. So that's sbriwales.co.uk. Just to give you, for those of you who don't know, just a bit of background about what we do. We are funded by Welsh Government and we are hosted by Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board. And what we do is we work with public sector bodies, so in this case, WAST, and we identify unmet needs and we launch those challenges out to you and we ask you to come and solve those problems with your ideas. So this is the team. If you're successful, this is who you'll be working with. You've already heard from Linda. So our role in this is, if you're successful, is we help you in the process. We find those right experts and end users to help develop your solutions to their full potential. And we facilitate the collaboration and try and make that process as streamlined as possible. And this challenge will very much be a collaboration with yourselves, with WAST, with Welsh Government and the SBRI Centre. So there's not enough time to run through all of these previous challenges, but I just wanted to show you some of the exciting challenges that we have been involved with. And if you wanted to learn more about them, you can find them on our website. So this is today's agenda. You'll shortly be hearing from the Welsh Ambulance Service Trust. We've got Liam, Jonathan and James. They'll be presenting the challenge to you. And then you'll be hearing two presentations. One will be from Kate at Welsh Government Innovation and Tom Doyle from Innovate UK. So these presentations are for anyone who's new to SBRI or the innovation funding process, and it just will give you a bit of background on how and why it works. And then we always get questions about the application process and the portal. So we've invited Josh down from Simply Do, who will go through that process with you. And then Joy from the SBRI team, she'll be facilitating that Q&A session, and she'll, throughout this morning, she'll collate all of your questions. So over to the WAST team. If you give me a moment to put your presentation up on the screen. Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks Kieran. So good morning everybody, and thanks for joining this briefing call on our SBRI challenge, a challenge to industry changing the way we deliver emergency care. As Kieran's highlighted, we're going to do an overview presentation today. You're going to hear from Liam Williams, our Executive Director for Quality and Nursing and the executive sponsor for this work. James Houston, who is our Head of Strategy. and myself. And hopefully presentation will be able to give you a flavour of our organisation, the challenges that we're trying to set industry to work in partnership with us on, and get into some of the detail of how it will be to work with us as an organisation and some of the nuances and uniqueness that an ambulance service brings. So without further ado, I'll pass to Liam Williams to give us a flavour of his thoughts.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you making the time. I've been with Welsh Ambulance for about 6 months, so it's quite exciting to be part of something, working with the SBRI Centre of Excellence at this early stage. Since I've joined, I've been really struck by the organisation that I'm working in. WAST is an innovative organisation, and as you would expect me to say, is absolutely centred on making sure we're delivering the highest quality care we can to patients at all times. To do that, this organisation has reached out in lots of different ways. We work really closely with academic partners across Wales and into England. We're an aspiring university trust. We want evidence and innovation to sit at the centre of the work that we do in the future years. We've obviously worked with the SBRI previously, right in the middle of the pandemic. We kind of went into partnership with them, we worked with industry, and as you saw on the previous slide, we came up with a solution, the rapid sanitisation technology, which really helped us responding, and that was a real motivator for us to want to come to the table again and work with industry over the coming months to see how else you can help us. When you think ambulance, you think, you know, the yellow box with blue lights responding as quickly as possible to the most life-threatening emergency. And we do that, but we do so much more, and that will be talked about afterwards. But to do more, we need to have more access to tech, more access to people who are empowered, who are enabled to use their skills, their knowledge, their competencies effectively. And we need to have an understanding of where future innovation lies, and I've seen several things here that again will be talked about over the next period that demonstrate how we are adopting at pace technology, digital solutions, and placing them into our organisation, and looking at how quickly we can move from something that's an innovation to becoming business as usual on the front line, be that in our contact centres, in our cars, our ambulances, our PTS vehicles, or within our corporate structures. So this is for us incredibly exciting. I would love to be staying with you for the full period. I have to apologise, I've come out of a board meeting to be here today, but the opportunity this presents for us to work across the SBRI community, with industry, with academic partners, with our NHS colleagues in other health boards, to really make a difference to the population of Wales. That's something we're really up for, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Jonathan and Kieran and the team bring forward from you over the coming weeks and months.
Wonderful, thanks Liam. So if we can have the next slide, Kieran, and James, I think you're going to take us through the organisational context and where we are, which has been an interesting space over the last few years. So over to you, James.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Liam. And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really looking forward to the next sort of hour and a half with you all. So I've just got a couple of slides that we'll just run through, just to provide a bit of background and context on the Welsh Ambulance Service. As colleagues on the call may be aware, that we're a national provider of health services across Wales, and we've got 3 core service arms that we deliver 365 days a year, 365 days a year. So firstly, we deliver our blue light emergency medical services. So I think most colleagues will be familiar with that arm of the service. We also provide a national 111 service, which provides advice, health information, and access to treatment for patients who have urgent medical needs. And we also provide an ambulance care service, which delivers our non-emergency patient transport for patients across Wales to attend planned appointments across all healthcare settings. So we've got 3 core areas of our service that we deliver across Wales. Kieran, if you could go on to the next slide, please. So at a glance, really, just to give you a broad overview of our emergency medical service. So over the last year, we've received just under 560,000 999 calls across Wales. And then just looking at the categorisation of those calls, roughly 19–20% of our calls are what we call our red demand. So these are patients with an immediately life or limb threatening emergency. It's our highest clinical priority, and we look to provide an 8-minute response to those patients who are categorised as a red. Our next category is amber, and that accounts for around 70% of our demand. And these are broken down into amber 1 and amber 2. Amber 1 being a high clinical priority, so this may be things like stroke, and amber 2 is an urgent clinical priority. So these are typically where we would send a face-to-face clinical response to support these patients in the community when they call. And then we've got our green activity, which is a non-urgent clinical priority, and that accounts for around 10% of our demand. So when we're looking at all of our 999 demand, I've just pulled out some of our top condition codes. So you've got on the screen here in the horizontal bar chart our top 5, and as you'll see that the first 3, falls, breathing problems, and chest pain, we receive just over around 50,000 calls across each of these conditions. And I think we really do recognise that whilst they're a very high volume part of our core 999 activity, these are areas that we're looking to explore where we can potentially deliver care differently in the future. And I think there's a huge opportunity here to think about how we can best utilise and develop new innovations and technology to support the management of these patients. And I'll come on in a few slides' time to just describe some of our future strategic direction and how we think we can deliver services differently in the future. So in terms of managing our demand, we currently manage circa 15% of ambulance demand through what we call consultant close. So this is where patients will speak to one of our clinicians in the control centre, and they will be managed virtually and over the telephone without requiring a face-to-face response. So they won't require an ambulance or a paramedic attending them at scene. We can manage them remotely. Of which the around 10% of our activity we actually manage and close at scene. So where we do require to attend the patient at scene, our highly skilled clinicians are able to resolve the patient or meet the patient's needs without them needing to be conveyed into hospital. And just up to about 10% of our activity, we actually refer to an alternative care provider or an alternative pathway that isn't directly into hospital or into the emergency department. But I think currently what we do recognise, and whilst we have been hugely focused over the last few years in looking to safely reduce the number of patients that we are conveying into hospital. So at the moment, we currently convey around 60 to 65% of patients who we attend at scene to hospital or into the emergency department. And I think we recognise that there is a huge opportunity here for us to think differently and us to safely reduce the number of patients that we're taking into hospital to help support some of the very challenging pressures that exist across the urgent and emergency care system, not only here in Wales, but also more broadly across the UK. So that's just a very quick glance really into some of the key levels of activity and how we manage calls across our emergency medical service. If we go on to the next slide, please, Kiran. Fantastic. So this is quite an exciting slide in terms of what are our opportunities for change. And I think, you know, over the last few years, we really have got a compelling case for change to really think about how do we move away from being what's known as a traditional ambulance service into one that really integrates itself into a core component of the urgent and emergency care system. And I think I'll just pick out a few of what I see as the key bullet points to raise with you this morning. So very much from a macro population health level, I think, you know, we firmly recognise that there is a need to continue to be agile as an organisation and to think about how we deliver services that meet the changing healthcare needs of our patients for today and also for future generations. We recognise, along with our health board colleagues here in Wales, that the patient case mix is changing. We are having more patients with frailty or complex chronic conditions. We need to think about how we best respond to that changing case mix. I think we all recognise, and particularly over the last 6 to 12 months, that there has been continued and significant pressure across the urgent and emergency care system here in Wales and more broadly across the UK. There are significant demand and capacity challenges, which is meaning that patients aren't getting the experience and the care that we would like. And certainly from an ambulance perspective, hospital handover delays do remain a significant challenge for us. And sometimes we can lose up to 30 or 40% of our available responding resource due to delays at handover, meaning that we cannot get to patients waiting in the community as quickly as we'd like. And I think we recognise that we've got a key part to play in how we can support our health board colleagues to improve the flow and improve the capacity within their emergency department units to minimise some of the pressures, not only for ourselves so that our ambulances can be released quickly, but also for the wider system as well. At our core, we are heavily focused on ensuring that we continue to improve patient care and improve the outcomes for our patients and deliver a good experience. We do recognise that currently our 999 response times, they are falling below our expectations. But certainly as an organisation, there is huge appetite for change and to drive innovation. So it's very much an open door for us to look internally and think about how we can deliver our services differently in the future. And I think what John mentioned in his short brief at the beginning of the slides is around that we have undertaken previous challenges with the SBRI, which have been very successful, and I think we're looking to build on that success and move that forward with this with this opportunity and challenge brief today. I think we do certainly recognise that there is increased clinical risk in the community at the moment, and that really is a key driver for us to take forward improvement in how we deliver our service. From a strategic perspective, there really is, from an NHS government or a government perspective to an NHS strategic view, there's very much the direction to provide more care closer to home and what we call shift left, or delivering more care upstream. And shift left is a term used as part of our commissioning framework. So it's really looking to try and safely minimise the number of patients who we need to take into a specialist emergency department, and can we better manage these patients either at home, in the community, or access to other services that are best placed to provide the care for them. And we really do recognise that there is a huge opportunity with WAST and the volumes of demand and activity that we see on a daily basis to help to stabilise some of the patient flow challenges that exist across the urgent and emergency care setting. And I think core to our strategic direction, we certainly do recognise there's a much greater opportunity for us as an ambulance service or national service here in Wales to play a more fundamental role in the system, be more integrated and be that connecting service between the patient and the right service to meet their individual patient care needs. And just like to sort of end this slide on, I think we certainly do recognise the importance of adopting innovative solutions. I think we recognise that we can make changes to our service model, but driving innovation and working with wider partners and stakeholders and academia is absolutely mission critical for us to find the potential changes that can deliver real improvements for our patients and our communities. So there's certainly an absolute open door and a team across the organisation who are really encouraged and excited to be working with industry to take forward the exciting ideas and innovations that hopefully you're able to submit and support as part of this challenge brief. So I can go to the next slide, please, Kiran. So I'll just give a quick overview really of our strategic vision. In 2019, our strategic vision for 2030, delivering excellence, was endorsed, and it sets out 3 core strategic ambitions. Firstly, around helping patients and our people, our staff, to stay healthy. Secondly, was helping patients more easily access services at the right time. And finally, providing the right care in the right place, wherever and whenever it is needed. So underpinning those strategic ambitions, we've started to embark on a transformation programme for our emergency medical service. And I think we certainly recognise that there is a need now to move from the traditional model of ambulance care into one that is more agile and more in tune and aligned to the changing patient needs and the opportunities of innovation across the setting. And some of our emerging ambitions include playing that more fundamental role across the urgent and emergency care system. I think we certainly do recognise that we need to protect our precious and finite resource so that we can quickly and appropriately respond to our highest acuity and life-threatening calls, whilst managing differently some of our less urgent calls that come through. So what that means is I think we recognise that we can safely manage and resolve more patients using our remote clinical assessment service, what was called consultant close earlier in the slides. We're clinically safe. We want to be able to manage more patients at home in the community. And this is certainly where this challenge brief will help us to deliver that. And I think there is an opportunity for us to try and schedule unscheduled care, actually be more proactive in terms of how we can manage that demand. And I think where we want to end up as part of our strategy and part of our future service model is to give a guarantee that we are only conveying patients to hospital who do require the specialist care in that environment that can only be delivered in a hospital setting. So I think that the ambition that we're setting ourselves here is that we want to fully and firmly connect ourselves into the wider urgent and emergency care system. So that's just a brief overview of our strategic vision for 2030. And then the next slide, please, Kieran. We'll come on to John.
Wonderful, thanks, James. Great overview. And my job over the next 3 slides is to bring the challenge brief to life for you, which the work James and the words James have just articulated there will slot in beautifully, I hope. You will find the challenge brief is publicly available. I'm sure many of you will have seen it. But essentially, we are looking for bold and brave ideas, balanced with those that can be delivered to deliver on a couple of the challenges we've put here in green. So improving our capabilities in the pre-hospital setting that will enable patients to be cared for closer to home, and the use of technology to support patient care, enhance communication to improve patient safety during the initial diagnosis or in cases of prolonged community waits for an ambulance or 111 response, or awaiting an urgent appointment to a place of definitive care. Essentially, what we are setting a challenge here to industry and academia is around, one, how can we improve our acceleration towards our strategic goals of keeping people at home where we can? And secondly, how can we use technology as an organisation and perhaps across the wider NHS with our partners to improve safety and experience in the community? And of course, you'll have seen through the general media and our own internal documents, patients are waiting a lot longer in the community than we would like, and indeed, in some cases, than is safe. And we are convinced there is technology there and available on the market, or certainly near a state of readiness that would really deliver a better experience of care, support patients while they're waiting for health or care, and allow us to make sure people stay safe. As you'll have seen further up in the slide deck, for us, we need to see high impact solutions. We have a much lesser interest in things that will tinker. We need to see some real population change happen here through this spree, and that's our aspirations, and we welcome bold ideas that will get us to that place. You'll see the 3 high impact solutions. You're principally around the falls, respiratory problems and chest pain, as they are the top 3, as you've seen earlier in the slide deck. And stronger applications will certainly be able to have a go at indicating how much of an impact that we will have on our response to these cases. And that data is available publicly through our website, through the Commissioner's website. So we really encourage you to think about and articulate and show us through your applications how you will make an impact, particularly across these 3 areas, and specifically how we'll either keep people safe while they wait for a response, or number 2, and how this will afford them to stay at home or in their place of residence for longer. Can I have the next slide, please, Kieran? So the challenge brief in some detail is available, as I said, but opportunities that may come our way, and these are just flavours and thoughts, certainly not set in stone, and I just hope to bring some of these to life for you. So we are interested in solutions that are for mobile use. We are an ambulance service for emergencies with our yellow Mercedes Sprinters ambulances that you'll see up and down the road, the blue lights, but we also have non-emergency vehicles too. But in principle, what you should remember through your applications and through your solutions is that we have a mobile workforce. And if it is a piece of kit or a piece of technology, that will be up and down the road networks, in hospitals, in stations, and will need to be suitable to that field pre-hospital environment. We need whatever infrastructure it is to be deployable across all of our current resource types. And that's our staff and our vehicles. And we are interested in artificial intelligence technology that can integrate and enhance what we currently do. So we recognise there's a world of technology out there, and there's a degree of the organisation, although it is very digitally savvy, continuing on that process and keeping up with what is available and the developments that the market can bring. We have a lot of different clinical professions within our organisation. Some are clinically registered, some are not clinically registered, and work across the services that we provide in call centres all the way through to the 999 response. So don't limit yourself to a single place or a single service. The more that we can use the whole organisation and embrace the whole organisation will get us across the line strategically to where we need to be. We recognise this isn't a single shot in one area. We are looking for solutions, or a range of solutions, that will allow us to do that across all of our services, across the whole organisations. Support for appropriate use of ambulances by the community. We're interested in ideas or solutions that would enhance that, would allow community resilience to be increased and communities to be able to self-support. So we're interested in ideas and solutions that can increase and certainly integrate that into the use of the ambulance or the wider NHS in Wales. We would like to see solutions that would help decision making for care closer to home. And by that, we often need clinical decision making to be done at different places at different times. And by that, I mean, we may well have a resource available in a certain area to visit a patient, to get eyes on, and to perhaps do some very basic care. But often we'll be using advanced clinicians or specialist clinicians in a remote contact centre to make the clinical decision on what will happen. And that could go a step further into the future with other wider NHS colleagues and clinical staff making decisions. So we're interested in solutions and ideas that would bridge those gaps and make that more seamless, so that we can afford clinicians and decision makers with the information they need to enable that person to remain at home and have their care delivered to them closer to home. And that links into how we can support people to be more independent and live independently for longer, and encourage community support and that sense of community resilience. Finally, we're an NHS public sector organisation, and we want to see ideas that are sustainable and affordable, and they are pragmatically going to be able to be achieved within the space that we work. Outer scope here is the replacement of vehicles. We do not welcome ideas around that on this instance. And integration to national systems. If principally a technology, an idea of solution requires an adjustment or significant changes to a piece of national system that we've got, particularly where that is a supplier, that will be difficult for us to achieve. We understand in the longer term there may be further integrations between the two technologies, but in the first instance, if your idea or if your solution requires significant changes to an existing system, that would be out of scope within this challenge brief. Can I have the next slide, please, Kieran? So finally, I'd just like to paint a bit more of the organisational context, as we have done earlier, but to certainly land with you some of the key bits to consider if your solution is to be highly successful and maybe even eventually implemented into the organisation. Think Team WAST, all of our people, 4,000 or so, clinical, non-clinical, support staff and management leadership staff are all across Wales in a variety of roles, in a variety of settings, and all working in a 24/7 environment. So this is a challenge, and to allow people to embrace that change, to really make that solution happen and to reap the benefits of it. Solutions and ideas should really consider at the first instance about how we would do that and how we will bring 4,000 people along on this journey with us. So we'd welcome ideas and solutions that have that length and that runway of thinking around how we would do that and engage with our people to make that happen. Secondly, we're a public sector organisation, and as the ambulance services in Wales, we are commissioned by the NHS Health Board in Wales through the Chief Ambulance Commissioner's Office. So companies, academic institutions, organisations working with us should be aware of that in terms of our commissioning arrangements and how we receive income and make cases for change. We strive for value-based healthcare and ideas and solutions that can think across the whole system, and where those benefits will be realised will be encouraged, particularly where we can understand where the benefit will come at what point in time. We recognise that might not always be in the ambulance service, particularly around some of the financing, but we need to have a clear understanding of where the money or the value will be created for our patients, or indeed our health board partners, or across health and care. Finally, do consider the challenge of change at the moment. We are not immune from the operational environment. Of course, we have industrial action at the moment. We've been through COVID, and the pressures on the NHS and all of our staff are large. So solutions that come forward do need to be workable. We need to make sure they take the initiative and they make a difference, and that's why we need to see impact, and solutions that can promise an impact and can give us a real clear sight on where this impact will be are highly asked for. And just finally, we are an ambitious organisation with big transformational dreams and plans which have been articulated across our stakeholders, and principally we're quality driven and clinically led, and bring that with you in your solutions and your ideas into how this will really change quality and how clinicians and clinically led decisions can be made. If we go on to the next slide, please, Kieran. So thank you for listening. We really welcome your feedback and really welcome your questions. I know there'll be an opportunity for Q&A at the end, and if there's any very specific questions or matters that can be taken offline, we'll be happy to do that through the SBRI team. I think the final comment I'd like to make is, I think the times in the NHS are challenging. We have huge ambitions, and we've been in this place before with our SBRI where things have been very challenging and things have been needed to be done quickly with our rapid sanitisation. And I think that demonstrates an ability of our organisation really to invest in this and to work with partners who can bring forward promising ideas. So I really look forward to your ideas and solutions, and hope to see some of you into the future.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Kate, I will endeavour to put your slides up.
Brilliant, thank you, Kieran. So yeah, I won't take up a great deal of your time. Tom Doyle is going to speak more about the kind of the more finer details of SBRI delivery and what that may mean for you. So I'm just going to cover off a little bit more about the Welsh Government context, if I may. And as I said, I'll keep it brief so that we have more time for Q&A at the end, which I think is the more important part. Next slide, please, Kieran. So I work within the Welsh Government Innovation Team, which is part of a broader team around delivering innovative support to businesses within Wales. And primarily what my role is around is supporting public sector, so cross-sector organisations to work with wider innovation ecosystem. And really it's about how we can create the conditions needed to meet our wider innovation vision, which is to foster a vibrant innovation culture in a stronger, fairer and greener Wales. As part of that wider Welsh Government Innovation Team, we provide advice and guidance for innovation funding, including business support through our collaborative research and innovation support programme, CRISP for short, We work across departments within Welsh Government to champion challenge-led delivery and work closely with other government parties to seek opportunities to collectively address key issues and maximise funding opportunities for Wales. So challenge-led competitions are a key part of this. Not only does it provide that vital funding for businesses of all sizes to participate in R&D and help grow their businesses, it also supports a collaborative approach, which is often quite different from the kind of standard procurement processes whereby businesses work with the public sector, not just for. Next slide, please, Kieran. So Welsh Government's SBRI Innovation Accelerator programme has been supporting small business research initiative SBRI competitions since around about 2014. It is a mechanism to connect public sector problem owners with innovative solution providers to address big challenges. We recognise that SBRI is a key lever for improving the use of public procurement spend, which is significant in its value, to support innovation and in turn to use innovation to improve public services. To date, we've supported nearly around 30 challenges that have been delivered across Wales, opening up public sector R&D contracts in excess of 9 million, including over which 3 million in contracts have been awarded to Welsh businesses. And what these brief stats don't capture is that also whilst we support Welsh businesses directly, what we often see is that Wales becomes a really attractive place for businesses to come and work and develop their solutions. And SBRI can often be a conduit to that. So whilst we've supported Welsh businesses directly with the funding, we've also seen this bring businesses to Wales as an opportunity to grow greater businesses within Wales linked to the public sector problems. Next slide, please, Kieran. So whilst SBRI is a UK-wide programme supported by Innovate UK, within Wales we've got a real kind of unique position whereby we're driven by the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which sets out our public duty for us to consider the longer term impacts of the way that we work and the challenges that we support as well. So it's not just about the economic benefits, it is a key driver in Wales, but also it's about the wider social and environmental impacts and benefits that SBRI can help support. So challenge-led delivery enables us to consider that wider context in addressing key challenges. And I think within the presentations that we've heard from WAST, being able to kind of capture those benefits and articulate, what improvements and benefits these challenges can deliver, I think is really key. Next slide, please, Kieran. So from a Welsh Government perspective, what makes a good challenge for us? So we work closely with public sector organisations to define and develop challenges around SBRI. And the key focus throughout has been upon supporting challenges that can demonstrate scope for a number of really important factors. So challenges should lead to the development of real innovation. So we're looking to address challenges that are keeping people awake at night. And I think we can't get a much more emotive or strong challenge than the one we're looking at today. And I think the number of people who are on this call today is a demonstration that this is a really important challenge that touches many of our lives. So we're looking for challenges where there is no solution available on the market or where the current solutions do not fully address the core challenge. So I think within that the Welsh Ambulance presentations, we also heard about how there are technologies out there. So these may be from different fields, different areas of health. So this is a real opportunity to test and try and potentially scale those solutions to better address these challenge needs. So we support projects that have a broader market potential, so solutions that could be adopted on a wider scale. Many of the challenges that are posed are ones that are being felt across the UK, and we've certainly seen that with the emergency care challenges. And so scale and the potential wider impacts are key considerations. So we're looking for solutions that could be adapted and scaled to ensure that we are learning from what works and optimising those benefits. And most importantly, we're looking to support projects that make life better for Welsh citizens economically, socially and environmentally for today and for future generations. So what are some of the clear factors that help a solution and a project application stand out for us? So SBRI challenges provide a really unique opportunity to build with and for end users. all SBRI projects should be able to demonstrate an understanding of who the key users and stakeholders are, and set out how they will work with those users and stakeholders throughout the challenge delivery to really understand the key heart of the problem and understand people's experiences. As I said, this is probably one of the most emotive areas of need that we've looked to address through SBRI. So supporting people in times of emergency where needs are great and emotions are high. So it's really important to be able to understand both the patient and the relative's perspective, and also the experiences of the care staff delivering that support and delivering that care to individuals. So applications should be able to clearly articulate the potential benefits for patients, relatives and ambulance staff, and set out how they will look to measure that and how we'll be able to kind of really understand what positive impacts your solutions are providing. So SBRI provides early investment in emerging solutions, but further development and investment may be required after projects are completed in order to bring that solution to market. So being able to demonstrate future plans for commercialisation provides confidence that the project delivers a look into the future, and using SBRI funding to accelerate their path to market. So it's probably one of the areas that we've seen slightly weaker in applications is that narrative around how will you get this solution to market? How will you make this a sustainable and affordable solution for health? So we're really looking to see that being strengthened in our future applications. So public sector challenge owners are looking for solutions to provide genuine benefits whilst also demonstrating value for money. So as they clearly said within their presentations, the Welsh Ambulance Service are looking for solutions that are viable and sustainable for the future, helping to deliver cost-effective and accessible services that can meet the growing demands of our NHS services. So these are different things that we'll be looking at throughout the application process to really make sure that the projects that you're putting forward understand the context that we're working in within Wales and can clearly kind of demonstrate how you're going to work towards delivering those benefits for Wales. And I think if we just go to the next slide, I think that's me all done. Thank you. And it's brilliant to be here. As I said, you know, the level of participation that we're seeing within this call definitely demonstrates, you know, that this is a really important challenge, and I look forward to seeing some of the applications and the projects that are put forward. Thank you all for your time.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Tom, I'll just put your presentation up too. When you're ready, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So hello everyone, I'm Tom Doyle from the SBRI team at Innovate UK. For those of you who don't know, Innovate UK is part of UKRI, which is the UK's research innovation agency. We're now part of the newly formed Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. Up until a couple of weeks ago, it was BAIS before that. So while I've got this slide up, I'm just going to start by reassuring anyone who's not from a small business that SBRI competitions, including this one, are not just for small businesses. Any organisations can apply. Appreciate the name is slightly misleading when it's acronymed, and that's something we're thinking about. But don't worry if you're not a small business, is the message there. Next slide, please. So SBRI is essentially a very different way to use and think about procurement to help the public sector both support and benefit from innovation. It is widely used across the UK, although not quite as widely used as we'd like, and that's why we're here to support that. It does provide a structured approach and hopefully, as you'll see and be aware of already, sharing the benefits and risks between the funding organisation and the successful applicant, ultimately supporting both. Next slide, please. So just have a quick look at how it does help both sides. From the innovator's perspective, firstly, it offers insight into the challenges which the public sector have, and those that the public sector are willing to put some money behind. And assume, we're all aware of the restricted budgets which the public sector is currently and has done for some time worked with. SBRI competitions offer the chance to win a public sector contract to develop technologies in the area where there is that interest. although it is worth noting, of course, that running an SBRI doesn't commit the funding organisation to purchase products developed through them. There have been over 100 public sector organisations use SBRIs. That's from huge variety of organisations, right from local councils through to Whitehall departments. And successful applicants have grown businesses. We have seen up to kind of 30% sales growth as a result of an SBRI, for example. Again, there's no guarantee, but public sector investment in the development of the technology or service can help to provide credibility to attract further funding. Just an example, I don't know if any of you are in the Southwest, but BBC Southwest featured an organisation called Open Bionics last week that developed a prosthetic arm, and they were on there because they've just gone through a big crowdfunding exercise. I think they raised $1.5 million investment in their company, and they did do an SBRI an earlier phase, so it can help in that regard as well. And it does provide relatively close involvement from the funding organisation from the outset. So you can listen to those that would want to put this technology into action if it did exist. The mechanism facilitates that, and I think it's difficult to overstate the importance of input from those in that position. Next slide, please. So, oh, sorry, one back. It looks very similar. Yeah, that's the one. So how does it help government? It facilitates access to a range of innovative technologies and organisations who can help overcome tough challenges for which there's no present solution. It's designed, as Jonathan noted earlier, is of great interest to bring in and nurture those really bold ideas that wouldn't come through otherwise. And much in the same way that innovators benefit, government organisations benefit from that end user involvement, helping ensure that what's being developed is fit for purpose. And ultimately, we're aiming for improved efficiency or effectiveness of public services. And Kate's summary of what makes a good SBRI challenge or solution probably covers that better. So I will, I'll move on to the next slide there, please. So just to go through some of the key features quickly. They are procurement contracts for R&D services. They're 100%. So unlike a grant mechanism, for example, there's no need for matched funding. Also, unlike a grant mechanism, it's not on the slide, apologies, but they are paid on the basis of agreed milestones. So whereas grants are paid on completion of effort, SBRI contracts are paid on the completion of milestones. SBRI is the UK's implementation of what the EU, the European Commission actually developed a number of years ago, early 2000s, I think, called pre-commercial procurement. So this isn't just a UK mechanism. If you go across Europe, countries implement this with slightly different names, but it's quite comforting, I find, to know that the level of expertise that was poured into this by the Commission at an earlier phase. Contracts are with one lead organisation, although where they need to, they can subcontract elements of the work. In terms of IP, so all background IP will remain with the supplier. Foreground IP also remains with the supplier, but there are some usage licenses for public sector use. That helps to ensure that following the SBRI, only a fair and reasonable market rate is charged for products or services. You might imagine, if those licenses and clauses didn't exist, that we would be using public money to fund the development of something for which perhaps there's only one or two in the market available then, and then that organisation could have a monopoly and essentially charge whatever they like, which I think any taxpayer would agree is not the best use of public money. So that's what those public sector licenses are kind of there to prevent. But it doesn't tie organisations into just supplying to the public sector or one organisation, for example. Absolutely encouraged to go and make the most of that IP beyond the SBRI. In terms of eligibility, as I mentioned earlier, it is open to all organisations, no limit on size of type, although any organisation applying must demonstrate a route to market, and that's a really important aspect of it. Next slide, please. So yeah, I'll just very quickly on this. SBRIs tend to be run as a number of phases. It's a very flexible mechanism, so running a phase one doesn't necessarily commit the funding organisation to running subsequent phases. Sometimes SBRIs will start at a later phase because that's where the technology is at. So just useful for awareness that it's a very flexible mechanism. Generally, there's a larger number of applicants at earlier feasibility stages, and as phases continue, the most promising solutions are taken forward. It's worth noting that at the end of the funnel here, if you like, once a commercially available product does exist, currently a fully open procurement process would be needed legally for any organisation to procure that solution. There are big changes coming in to public sector procurement through the new procurement bill that's due out later this year. That might change then, but for now I would just bear in mind that a fully open procurement will be needed following the SBRI. And yeah, I think I'll just finish by saying, the SBRI mechanism is only part of the picture. I was really happy to hear, James talking earlier about the adoption and use of innovation, and that's really beyond the bounds of SBRI. It's important to recognise, that the mechanism is part of a wider research and development and operational system process, and thinking about it in that wider picture is always beneficial. I think that's it from me.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Tom. So thank you to the presentations we've had so far. If anybody has any questions for the WAST team or for Kate and Tom, please post them in the Q&A function at the top there. And Josh, when you're ready, over to you.
Thank you, Kieran. Okie doke. All I'm going to do today is spend 5 minutes just walking through the Simply Do portal. It's the portal that you will use in order to apply for the SBRI. And I'm just going to walk through that now. Thank you, James and Jonathan, for the presentation earlier. I think it's a really exciting opportunity, this one, and getting context from yourself was really important, and I think will help suppliers when it comes to applying for this fund, thinking about the organizational context and being empathetic towards staff right from the outset will be really important to how this potential software or potential solution is brought to market, because it could have a real impact. Okie dokie. So the page that I have pulled up on the screen here is the challenge page. Now, some of you may have seen this before. The link directly to this page, I believe, will be shared after the session today via email. This is the first page that you'll arrive at on the Simply Do portal. And what you'll notice is it's the challenge that we've been discussing first and foremost, but also a lot of the background, if not all of the background information that's been discussed today is on this page here. So around the 2 topics of the challenge, what types of solutions they're looking for it to solve, and then all of the various information, what's in scope, what's out of scope. So all of the info that's been discussed today, you'll find on this challenge page on your screen here. And as you go down, you'll understand a bit more context around the phases, and then the key dates for this challenge. Now, this challenge is due to close at noon on the 17th of the 3rd. So you've got lots of time to review this and go in and complete your submission. But this would be your starting place. Review the challenge brief and make sure that you're a fit for the challenge. Now, obviously, at the moment, you can see there's a link to register for the event that we're currently in today. What will happen is the Q&A document, and if there's any slides or videos, all of that information will be uploaded into the portal and underneath here so that you can access any information after the fact today. And then finally, as you go down towards the bottom of the challenge, you'll see the instructions of what you need to do. So you'll just need to create your idea, complete every section of the format and submit prior to the deadline on screen. And then right at the bottom of the challenge page, there's various links and documentation to supporting documents that you might want to review and have a look at prior to or during your application. When you're ready to then begin your application, all that you'll need to do is click Create Your Idea, and at which point you'll be asked to create an account or log into an account if you already have one. Just wait for my internet. Once you're then logged in and you've got your account on Simply Do, you will then be met with the application form. So as I discussed, this is the form that you'll be completing. So sections A to I here down the left-hand side, and all that you need to do is begin working your way through this application, completing every section prior to the deadline and submitting when you have completed. Now, should you want to work collaboratively on your bid or invite colleagues from your organisation to work collaboratively with you, on the left-hand side, you will see Add a Collaborator. All that you need to do is click that button, type in the email address of the individual that you're going to be working with collaboratively, and send them an invite. What that should mean is they'll be able to access this idea as well, and you can work on various sections whilst the challenge is open and submit when you're ready. Simply Do will automatically save your updates. You don't need to click save every time you want to save. Your work will be saved as you're going through this application process. And then finally, when you get to the end of the application, you'll just need to click submit prior to the deadline. As I mentioned, it's worth noting that if you submit and the deadline has not passed yet, you do have the opportunity, should you want to change, to unsubmit your application, make changes, providing that you do submit again prior to that deadline time and date. That's everything from a Simply Do side. If you need any product support, so you don't know where to add a collaborator, you're not sure how to find the challenge brief or the information, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen here, you can open up a conversation with myself or another member of the Simply Do team, and we'll be on hand to support you from a technical standing. If it is a question around the process, then we will probably forward that on to the SBRI team who will field that. Okie dokie, good luck with all of your applications. As I mentioned, I believe the link directly to the challenge page will be shared after the event today. But if you've got any questions or any specific questions around the portal, again, I'll be on hand to support. So pop something in the Q&A if there is anything. Thanks, Kieran.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. So today's recording and today's presentations, they will all be in that useful links section at the bottom of the challenge page on the Simply Do portal. Also in the useful links, you'll find an example SBRI contract. So this is a standard non-changeable contract that we use for all SBRIs. And if you're successful, that is what you will sign and agree to. And just before we go to the Q&A, I just want to share with you some key dates. So Josh was talking about the deadline. So that's the 17th of March. That's 3 weeks tomorrow, and it's at noon, so 12 o'clock. It's a hard deadline. And then what we'll do is we'll have a week to assess those applications. And then on Monday, the 27th of March, that week, we will notify those that are successful, and they will then go into the awarding contract phase with project work starting on the first week of April. And for those who are unsuccessful, we will be providing feedback in April. And then the project will complete after 10 weeks, and that will be on the 16th of June. So Joy, over to you. Joy's now going to facilitate the Q&A session. Did we get many questions?
No, just a few questions. Thanks very much, Kieran. First of all, we've actually got just a couple of questions come in from Joan Condell, and bear with me just a second. And Richard Burton, just in regards to things like slides, I think Kieran just actually covered that all of this information will be uploaded to the Simply Do website afterwards. So we'll also be sending out a copy of the recording, so you'll have all the information that you need after the event. Then we have a question here from Hilary Parsons, which I think we need to direct over to the WAST team. Is one of the greatest challenges around mental health service, does it relate to availability and options? So I don't know if one of the WAST team can give us an answer on this one.
Sure, yeah, thanks for the question, a good question.
Thanks,
So
Jonathan.
absolutely, it is a big area of focus. We do indeed have our own mental health team, which has been supported through Welsh Government funding also. So it certainly wouldn't be off the cards. In terms of high impact, I'd really encourage Hillary's organisation to consider, where we would see that, how it would work. Particularly the high impact solutions that we put in the challenge brief are flavours. They're certainly the numbers, and you can see the volume, but that doesn't mean that other conditions aren't off the table at all. And we'd welcome innovative ideas around mental health. And I encourage you to go through our website and our documents around what we're doing around mental health and how that might, how your idea would implement into that offering that we've already got.
That's lovely. Thanks very much, Jonathan. Next question is from Deepak Sampson. Can an SME be the lead applicant and a university be the collaborating partner? So maybe over to Tom or Kate to answer this for us, please.
Happy to answer that if you like. Yes, certainly an SME can be the lead and a university can be the collaborator, or vice versa. The only one thing I'd say is if the university was a lead, you'd have to look quite closely at the commercialisation bit just to show that there is a path to market. But yes, certainly an SME could be a lead and a university a collaborator.
Thank you very much. So then we have another question here as well. Currently, what do the paramedics use when they're in a patient's home? Do they have tablets or iPads, phones that they can use to do clinical assessments, etc.? So maybe, I don't know, Jonathan, if you can.
Yeah, no problem. So the question is, just to clarify, sorry, Joy, internet broke up, is what do the paramedics have available to them?
Yeah, apologies. Let me just read that one back for you. Just 1 second. So currently, what do the paramedics use when they're in a patient's home? Do they have tablets or iPads, phones that they can use to do clinical assessments, etc.?
Yeah, so they have a range of kits. I would, in the most part, probably to give you a feel for where we are, it's all kind of interchangeable with hospital stuff. So we have pulse oximeters, which you would see in a doctor's surgery or in the hospital. Blood pressure cuffs. We have a defibrillator, which is a bit more advanced than an automated one. You can do 12 lead ECGs and can transmit them to the hospital. In terms of iPads and tablets, yeah, they have a tablet which is issued to every member of staff. And most staff, or at least vehicles, will have a phone, a different range of phones. Some will be smartphones and others will be less smart. So yeah, definitely connected. And I think another thing to point out here, Joy, would be we are well connected in terms of internet broadly across Wales. So ideas and solutions can consider, in the main, being connected to the internet most of the time. I would just encourage for certain black spots across Wales that might not always hold true, but in the main, that is less of a problem for us in terms of connectability.
That's lovely. Thanks very much, Jonathan. Just a quick question as well. Could we put the timetable up again? It's actually the timetable and everything is all on the Simply Do website, but I don't know if maybe Kieran still got that slide, but thanks very much for that, Richard. Alison Porter would like to know, what scale of funding are we offering? Well, I don't know if one of the SBRI team can maybe just confirm the scale of funding. Do we have anybody there?
I was waiting for Kieran to answer that. Kieran,
that's okay. Do we want to come back to that one in a minute? I can just move along, and while somebody just digs out the exact figures for us. So another question is, what criteria will you use to assess the proposals? Maybe Josh has got, he can just give an outline of the idea for the assessment there.
Joy, I think I might be able to help with that. So we've
Oh,
got
thanks, Linda.
specific evaluation criteria
Mhm.
that the team will be, or the evaluation team will be assessing your applications on. And that again is available on the Simply Do portal. You'll find quite all the documents, everything you probably need will be on the portal. Anything that's missing, then you're more than welcome to contact us and we can get that popped on for you.
It's lovely. Thanks very much, Linda. Do you want to just cover the fund in there now as well?
Yeah, and just reiterating what Linda said, all of this information is on the challenge brief, but what we're for phase 1, which is a 10-week phase, feasibility phase, we are looking to fund 225,000. So this is for a total of 3 projects. So that could be the value of 75,000, including VAT each. And those 3 projects are then can apply for phase 2. And then we would be looking to fund up to 3 of the successful, up to 3 projects again for 265,000 each, including VAT. All applicants from phase 1 aren't necessarily successful into phase 2, but again, we'll do it, and there's an assessment process there. I hope that answers that question, but again, it's all on the portal.
Thanks, Kieran. Okay, so we have another question here from Deepak Sampson. What is the challenge owner's view on the potential solution? So are you leaning more on patient-facing app or a piece of tech for patients? And on the other hand, are you looking for an app stroke product that helps paramedics?
I mean, I think it's a difficult one because I think we're interested in all of the above would be a view, and I appreciate the challenge brief is quite broad, but it gives you an idea of where we are as an organisation trying to explore where we could go and what would be the bigger game-changing things in town. So I wouldn't say anything's off the table, but what I would say is, and hopefully articulated in our presentation, is tell us the impact. Really bring it to life to us where the impact's going to be for your solution, so we can gauge, okay, this is really going to align with where we're going strategically. This is the impact on patients, so this is the conversation we need to be having with patients and their carers to understand, is this technology going to work through the phase 1? So I think that would be my answer. Is certainly there's no kind of overarching preference. It is broad purposefully to try and capture all of that. I don't know, James, if you want to offer a view on that as well.
Apologies, still on mute. Yeah, I think my view is exactly what you've described there. I think there's nothing that's off the table. We're really looking to explore all of the potential innovations and opportunities that exist with to support the challenge brief. And I think you're right. We did keep the challenge brief quite open, not to limit the ideas and innovations that can come through. So absolutely, Deepak, what you put forward there is, we'd certainly be looking to cover all of those areas.
That's great. Thanks very much, both. I've had an email through as well, because I appreciate not everybody seems to be able to access the Q&A. So this says, could you please explain a bit more about the activities that we are supposed to do as part of phase 1? So we're looking back more towards the sort of the SBRI side of it now.
Yeah, so I can add to that as well. So again, so phase 1 in essence is a feasibility stage. So we're just looking for applications to kind of show that they can do what they've set out in their challenge brief. And so you would have potentially, weekly project team meetings with experts from WAST, and you've basically got a forum there, a platform there to ask them questions, and that is to inform the development of your solution. So then at the end of that feasibility development stage, there's another assessment stage, and then you would go into a 12-month testing phase. So you have to evidence the benefits of your solution. So it's about gathering all of that information, all of that data. And again, very much a collaborative process. You'll work very closely with WAST to do that. And again, there'd be, weekly project team meetings with experts. So in essence, that's what the prize is that you're getting to work with your end user to develop your solution. But we'll guide you through the whole process if you are successful. At the SBRI Centre, that's what our role is there to do, is to support you through all of that. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Kieran. That's brilliant. Thank you. Another one about more on the front line. So are the paramedics currently able to prescribe electronically to community pharmacies?
Good question, thank you. So we have a few staff, advanced clinicians who can prescribe. It's limited at the moment. There's certainly a desire to move in that direction, but it takes time to develop our advanced practice framework and our clinicians who come into that. So we do have a small selection of staff who visit more of our maybe complex patients who have comorbidities and different needs that we need to explore, and we will try and target our advanced paramedic practitioners and our advanced practitioners to those people to support them. A selection of those can prescribe and also often work in primary care too. So in terms of scale, that is certainly not across the whole workforce. So I hope that provides a picture of who can prescribe and who can't.
Great, thank you. Another question then in terms of applications. So our organisation isn't based in Wales. Can we still submit? Kate, yeah,
I'm happy to jump in and answer that one. Yes, so any
Thanks,
business
Kate.
from across the UK, and it's because it's still EU pre-commercial procurement, it's open to businesses in the EU as well. So yeah, you don't have to be based in Wales. I would encourage you to demonstrate within your application how you understand the context within Wales and how you understand, the way the systems work. But certainly, no, we're looking for the best solutions, wherever that may be, whether that's inside or outside of Wales. Just to say, there's two questions from Terry Meredith. I think they've got hidden in the comments rather than actually the questions, but I don't know if you want me to read those out. So the first one is, which organisations form the evaluation panel? So I can probably answer that one at the same time. So that will be made up of people from across the Welsh Ambulance Service, Welsh Government as well will probably participate. Might be bringing in experts from Innovate UK, but we'll be bringing in people with the right knowledge and background to this challenge to be able to kind of offer a informed opinion in terms of the criteria that's set out on Simply Do. The second question from Terry Meredith is, how does preventative care play into the overall strategy?
Thanks, Kate. Thank you.
I'm after you. We certainly have in terms of public health and preventative health, we are interested in that space. So certainly, again, not off the table at all. And we'd be really interested to work with ideas and solutions that could really demonstrate how that will impact on 999, 111, and what the system benefits. So I think we certainly recognise that preventative health and different interventions we can make as an ambulance service, could really be game changing for population health. So in terms of that solution, I'd really ask that we can understand positioning, what the ambulance service is, that where would that sit, how would we integrate, and consider our business model as a commissioned service, as with all ideas, but certainly not off the table. Be interested to see where we could go with that. And we've certainly been doing a lot of work around our falls and frailty patients and responding to them in different ways. So we'd be really keen to understand more about the preventative health. James, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I think just to concur with what you've described there, John, I think prevention, when we look at the longer term position for our strategy, is going to be crucial. It's not only just thinking about the initial call that comes in and how we manage that person for the needs that they require at that singular event, and how we respond to that. I think it is thinking about that longer term position of how can we put preventative measures into place so that actually the patient may not need to dial 999 in the future. But I think what we will need to just explore with that aspect is, being a commissioned provider and service, how that interplays with the health boards who hold the care for the population that reside within their health board boundaries. So we would need to explore that a little bit further, but certainly taking forward preventative measures will be certainly helpful for us as an ambulance service and for the wider system as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. Another question then we have here, back to you guys again. It was mentioned that we could look at demand data. So where can we find this, please? Also, where can we find information on the capacity that currently exists within WAST, and how many vehicles, what types, how many members of staff, shift patterns, etc.?
Yeah, if I pick that one up, John.
Yeah, go for it, James.
Yeah, we've got all of that information available. It's available in different places. So what we may need to do is just to collate that into a bit of a composite report and potentially publish that information on the portal. Would that be possible?
Yeah, of course. You can. We can put that into useful links so all the applicants can use it.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, we have, I think this is just along the lines of another question that we've had already, Kieran, which was what are the deliverables that you're expecting for phase 1? Is it a technical / feasibility study, or are you looking for a functional product?
Yeah, so I'll comment on this, and I think Linda can add to that. So it's the phase 1 is about development. So development and feasibility. To be honest, we kind of look for value for money. So I don't think just a feasibility study would be what we are looking for. There'd be a bit more development in that. But I'll let Linda, do you have any more you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, it depends where your innovation is, doesn't it? If it's just an idea, which is fine, then there's going to be a bit more development that's required. So I think, we're okay with if you've only got an idea, and that actually if that's what we're looking for, and it can show all those benefits that Jonathan and the team from WAST have talked about, then actually we'd be a little bit silly to kind of leave it on the shelf. So I think, a feasibility is okay as long as it does have some type of product development in it. I think Jonathan, James, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there. I think you'd be comfortable with that.
No, I think so. And our previous experience with the SBRI programme, I can offer confidence to people who submit their ideas that the process is very rigorous, but it's really supportive. So you will be we'll get through the development timeline. I think the one thing with the idea, as with all of the submissions, tell us where you think the impact's going to be, and by the end of the phase 1 we will really need to see where this is going to be, and if it goes into a phase 2 and testing, naturally we'll want to see results, and that's the aim of the game for us. But we've had experience working with just an idea, and we've wrapped around for the phase 1 and for the phase 2 project team arrangements, so you have access to people who can really guide the development, and that for me is what this is all about.
That's great. Thank you very much. Another question for Jonathan and James, I think. Did I hear that you were able to transmit data from clinical monitors to the hospital whilst patients are being transported?
Yes, so we do use an electronic patient care record, which is a fairly new change within the organisation of the last couple of years. There is ability to transmit some of that data through into the hospital, so they have a live kind of update on where we are, and particularly around ECGs, there is an ability for us to transmit what that ECG looks like. So I would not suggest we're fully connected and the hospital's got everything. There's still telephone calls and the need to kind of communicate that in more traditional ways. But we do have some ability to transmit data to particularly the emergency department who would receive the patient. Where I think the future might be is how we can connect data and information to clinicians, specialist clinicians, consultant-led services. These are different areas which we haven't yet fully immersed ourselves into.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I think there's another one around data So we're thinking of an idea, but we'll only work if we're able to get data on risk. Would you have that data available? Say, for example, the number of patients who are at high risk of fall, COPD, etc. And would you make it available to successful SMEs?
Yeah, I think so certainly in terms of data, we'll certainly share what we can, the public available data, which is quite extensive, and particularly through the Commissioner's Office too. So we'll take that away as an action and put that through the useful links. In terms of moving forward, for me, with phase 1 and phase 2, it is all about impact and delivery and results and where we can see transformation happening, and that will only be achieved through the data. We're a very data conscious organisation. So we would be happy to do that. There may be some data sharing arrangements we'll have to work through, information governance, etc. But we're all in this to make sure there's a successful solution at the end of it, which is commercial for our partner and really useful for us. So I can't foresee a big problem with that.
That's great. The next one then is, it was mentioned that integration with national systems was out of scope. Could you expand on what you mean by this? That is, if something would need integration, then would the proposal be automatically declined?
So I think the guiding principle I would suggest on this is if your idea requires significant integration or huge changes to a current system that we use, which clearly hasn't been worked up with a supplier, we don't have an appetite to get involved in that sort of discussion with suppliers. So essentially, we couldn't allow phase 1 to be a negotiation with a supplier about how they might change their product to allow a solution to work. We've got to see something evolve. So that's where the spirit and the principle of that out of scope is. That's not to say that if in the long term, there's some efficiencies that could be made by some sort of API or interface into the future, we certainly would understand that happens a lot with technology products, and it's very reasonable to suggest. But if initially an idea is saying actually there's massive changes needed to a current system which we highly rely on, that would be out of scope. I don't know, James, you want to expand on any of that? Oh, you're on mute.
I've done it twice now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think, John, just to add to that, in the conversation that we had before the call, if a solution come in and that we did need to, fundamentally change some of our procured systems, then it probably would be out of scope for this challenge brief. But I do think we recognise that there may need to be some changes to help integrate potential solutions. And I think we certainly need to explore that with our suppliers, and it would be dependent upon what system potentially the challenge brief was focused on. But I think the message we're trying to give is that fundamental change to our current national systems would be out of scope, but we can explore the feasibility and the possibility of bedding in certain solutions that have less extensive changes that are required, would probably be the key message.
I think I agree. And just to join that, it comes around scope of control. We cannot, these are products that we've procured under arrangements. We haven't got always baked into those contracts the ability to change things and ask for changes urgently, and thus why we've had to put that in as an out of scope as an initial, a principal idea. Wouldn't be able to work with that one.
That's great, thank you. The next question then from Mark Holmes. What would the engagement of WAST personnel look like from an allocation of time and specific knowledge perspective?
So we will certainly have a clinical lead for this, who will be an experienced senior leadership clinician. We've got a project team lead who's also happens to be an experienced paramedic and advanced practitioner, and a range of people from across our transformation network, colleagues from across the organisation who will be part of the discussions too. So we will take a view. We've got the project team emerging now as we've started through the challenge at the outset, but we will be happy to work with suppliers. So if there's a particular need for us to bring in some expertise from a certain area, we will certainly be wishing to facilitate that. And the next part I would also say is where we think a solution is quite impactful on either the service or particularly patients' experience or the carers for those patients, we will have an appetite to bring them into our project team and to work on the solution with us as a team.
Nothing more to add there, James? Nope. Okay. You sort of flashed it and then disappeared. Okay, the next question then is back in terms of looking at the scope of the challenge. So just to check, is the scope of the challenge to get to a proof of concept stroke prototype, which then later goes out to a commercial tender for full enterprise solution, or have I misunderstood?
I can take that unless Linda, there's anything from a SBRI point of view, but so certainly to our mind, phase 1 is about showing us, telling us what you can do and then show us, with a phase 2 testing being all around how will this work in practice? Does this actually deliver the results? And is it essentially giving us what we've asked for at the end of the year? The big, clearly what's been articulated through all the presentations is there's no guarantee of a commercial arrangement or procurement at the end of this, and that is a clear message. Linda, I don't know if you wanted to.
I haven't. We've trained you well, Jonathan. So thank you.
Jonathan can cover all of it. Okay. So the next question here as well then is, how does preventative care fit into the overall strategy? For example, remote home monitoring?
Yeah, do you want me to pick that one up, John? Certainly that's a core part of our strategy in terms of how can we manage or better manage patients to safely continue at home. And as part of our strategic ambition, I referenced earlier the case management elements. That's something that we don't currently provide as part of our service model, but certainly the ability to monitor remotely patients' conditions so that we can identify any exacerbations in changing conditions in their health is a key part, so that actually we may not in the future require to send a face-to-face clinical response, but our clinicians in our control room can potentially monitor patients remotely and make effective clinical decision making. So certainly that area of innovation and tech, I think, is a really exciting opportunity that I'm not aware that any other ambulance services in the UK are proactively taking forward. So I think we potentially that would be a sort of a leading piece of work across the UK ambulance sector, if there is that technology that's available for us to remotely monitor and just identify any exacerbations and then make the right clinical and effective decisions to safely manage that patient at home. So absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. The next question then is, do all vehicles have lifting gear for falls patients, such as inflatable seats?
So yes, most vehicles, cars and ambulances will have lifting cushions and inflatable devices which will aid people up. We are starting to see other lifting aids come in, so kind of the more mechanical slings and the likes to try and bring things up. So from a manual handling point of view, we do have the equipment. What I would concede is, it's still a manual job in the most part, and our musculoskeletal injuries of our staff is still unfortunately too high. So things that we could do to try and improve that would be very welcome.
Lovely, thank you very much. The next question then. So we're working our way through them. We interface medical devices, vital sign and point of care into clinical systems. Do the Welsh ambulance vehicles have a patient record system on board?
Yes, so we use the electronic patient care record. So all iPads have that, and we have integrations with our system on that, so we can essentially take the call through the call taking team, that go through to the vehicle, and then that automatically populate into our patient care record to quite an extent. So yeah, we do have that. James, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add on that one.
No, I think you've covered all the key points there, John.
Lovely, thank you. Then we have a very sort of similar, I suppose, a little bit of a crossover to some of the questions, but can you describe phase 1 in more detail? Will this include a pilot of an innovation as proof of concept and potential impact as outlined in the idea submission? If so, will a team be identified for this pilot? I suppose that's a little bit different to the other questions.
Yeah, I think from a phase one point of view, we'd be, it's about getting the place. So you set out the project, what you're going to achieve in phase one, and we see that. What you've got to do from a SBRI point of view, and Linda and Kieran would be able to advise, is you've got to reach the milestone. And if you believe there's a way of us doing that in a simulated and safe way, then that we would be able and willing to facilitate that, providing we can understand the requirements to do that. We'd be happy to do that. But I think from a testing point of view, we would really see that come to life in phase two, and that's where we'd really see want to measure the gain. So phase one, if there's an appetite to build, provide it, and then simulate something, and we can help facilitate that to bring it more to life, then we'd be happy to try and facilitate that. Recognising phase two, which is really where we do the rigorous test of the solution.
Yeah, I'd just add to that is that, Jonathan, you're definitely right there. I think what's also you need to bear in mind is that phase one's only 10 weeks as well. So by the time, we've got you in and you've started to talk to the experts about what they want and what they need and what works and what doesn't work, I think you might find that time goes extremely quickly. So I think, quite a large proof of concept there would be quite difficult. But, like Jonathan says, phase two, you've got best part of 12 months there to work with the teams to test it rigorously. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you. A couple more questions come in by email as well. So back to Jonathan and James there. So what kind of systems are currently used by paramedics and A&E departments in Wales? Are there any particular technologies or processes that have been effective in improving patient outcomes and reducing demand for urgent and emergency care services?
Gosh, there's a lot in that. It's a big question. I would say we've moved forward. I think that the bigger in the A&E space, advancements over the last sort of 10 years have really come along. So some of the kit and our pulse oximetry we've had for a while, but when that can integrate into the machines we use, the defibrillators with more information, the ECG, all that's connected has been driven a lot of efficiencies, and a lot of job designs improved because we can do things more easily. I think certainly the ability, and I'd say we're at the early stages of being able to send data out and connect with others is a big one. And I think the next chapter for the ambulance service is how we're going to connect the data. And I think we had a previous question around how can we support people in the community? How do we get that information? And this point links back to the presentation where I said, we need to empower the decision makers who might not be right next door to the bedside or to the living room or whichever environment it is. They're going to be remote in the future. They're going to be a little bit further away for many occasions. So the more we can do to find solutions that connect observations, understands, build a picture for someone who's remote, maybe sat in the call centre, being asked to make a decision on what traditionally we would have perhaps just sent somebody and conveyed them to hospital. How do we install confidence in those people, those clinicians, to take the decisions that are necessary and give them the information to leave that person at home, which for a clinician is a big deal because we can't get that wrong. So that would be my sense on where the technology angles could really help. James, is there anything you want to add on that?
No, I certainly wouldn't want to repeat, John. I think you've articulated that well. Yeah.
That's great. Next question on email then is the expectation for phase two. Is it to develop a working prototype or an end-to-end solution?
I guess it would depend on what the solution is, but what we will rigorously want to do is make sure this works. Our previous experience with the SBRI is the most successful solutions were ones that when we introduced it into our testing and essentially tried to operationalize it, it really worked. Like we had a lot of learning, and actual fact, to the extent of we could see the benefits, our staff could feel the benefits. It was a highly successful place to be for all involved. So I think we'd want to see it really kind of be. It depends on how far it's going to be, where it is in the solution. If it's a big piece of work where we need to get certain kit, you know, we would have to develop a testing plan. You would need to come up with a testing plan, which would be pragmatic within the scope of funding, etc. So it isn't necessarily needs to be across the whole organisation if it's a certain piece of kit or something like that, but we would need to develop a test plan that we could see the results and measure the impact. So a little bit ambiguous, that, I think, but you know, principally we'll facilitate what we can to make sure it's a rigorous testing kind of process for an entire year.
Sorry to be a pain. Can I just add to that as well? You know, it's the hope is, even though, you know, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a procurement, as people have said in the presentations at the end of this, but it's for you during that testing phase to really demonstrate to the teams, this is your showcase. Actually, look how fabulous our solution is, and actually look what the benefits are going to be. And at the end of that testing, hopefully, there's an option then that the team from WAST or wherever may want to go on to procure it. It's your stage, it's your forum. We're giving you such a unique opportunity to do that. So it's for you to make the best of it, really.
That's great. Thanks very much, all. Next question coming through then is there any data available regarding the main causes and delay in handover flow at A&E, both nationally and by demographic? Or do you have any data to show what percentage of patients could potentially have been shifted left?
James, I'll leave you to that one.
Yeah, no, really good question. We've certainly got lots of data to evidence some of the delays that we are experiencing in hospital. And we can break that data down by demographics, and we can break that data down by the different call categorization, so we can begin to you know, better understand the profile of the patients who are waiting longest in a hospital setting. We haven't got an explicit number of patients that we think can be shifted left. I think a lot of our data indicates that there's significant opportunities here to manage patients differently, whether that be through additional skills or whether that be through health technology, innovation and things like that. What I can say, just to help sort of contextualize this, if we were to compare the conveyance rates of our current paramedic workforce against our advanced paramedics, so advanced paramedics have got additional more specialist diagnostic skills over and above that of a paramedic. What we do tend to find across a number of different call categories and patient types, that our APPs have somewhat of a 20 to 30% lower conveyance rate than a paramedic. So they are managing to maintain and care for more patients in the community to reduce the volume of activity that is being flowed into the hospital setting. So I think we've got probably around about 88, I think, APPs currently active across Wales, but that in comparison to our paramedic and EMT workforce is still very, very small. So we certainly recognise, just using that as a barometer, that there are still a significant percentage of patients that we can manage more safely at home.
That's great. Thank you very much, both. Next question coming through then is, you've identified that solutions that could require more than a fair amount of integration with national systems are out of scope. Is there a different process to explore more expansive ideas that could meet our ambitions for shift left? If so, who should we connect with?
I think we're an open organisation, so we're always open to receive ideas, even if it's outside of the screen. You can contact James or myself, and our contact details can be gained through the SBRI team. We're always interested to see how we could integrate and do things in a different way. And I think it's a real appreciation, and I think it's part of society more broadly. There's lots of technology products and how interoperability really plays into it. So it's something we're very alive to. And the outscope note on the challenge brief wasn't without discussion, putting that in terms of how do we really play this in to make sure, one, we can do this, we can get a phase one complete, recognizing that in the longer term that there might be need to change, and change can come, we can create that environment. So in the first instance, if it can't be achieved through the SBRI process, I would strongly encourage you to speak with Linda and the team, because there are other opportunities in innovation improvement, but equally very happy to have a conversation outside of the process.
Yeah, and I think just to come onto the back of that, John, I think, you know, as an organisation, as I mentioned in the presentation slides, we're certainly an organisation that strives to take forward and to test new ideas and innovations. Really is an open door. And I think that's testament certainly to the sort of the leadership and strategic direction across the organisation, from our executive team and chief exec right down to people on the ground delivering the service. I mean, we spent, you know, certainly over the last 2 to 3 years, John, we've really tried to strengthen our ability within the organisation to generate and germinate new ideas from across the organisation. So we've got a WAST improvement and innovation network, which is an active portal which encourages staff from across the organisation to submit ideas, and we take those in and review and compare those to our strategic direction. Do they align to the vision and the future where we're heading? And then we look then to put the right people around those pieces of work to drive them forward. So I certainly just want to really stress that, you know, we're actively encouraging new ideas all the time. I think the challenge is trying to manage all of the ideas. You know, we're certainly an organisation that is bereft of ideas. That's certainly not the case, which I think is a really positive position. And I think what's critical for us is that we can identify those innovations and those ideas that are going to have a big impact and make it, you know, a seismic difference to the quality and care of our patients. So yeah, I just wanted to really stress that point to colleagues on the call.
Brilliant. Thank you very much both. Next question is, since NHS Wales has already signed up with Attend Anywhere, will we have to integrate it with it necessarily if we are looking to remote care and support?
I think, again, it's the integration question, isn't it? I think our guiding principle from an organisation point of view is to integrate across the system, and not just in technology, but our business processes, the way we work. It's about doing the best for our patients, and that's a collective responsibility across the whole health and care system. So that's our starting point. You know, in terms of what solutions come forward, if there's opportunities, you know, you can identify that you know will be that'll be of interest. But for us, you know, we want to see how we could particularly do things as well within WAST. You know, so nothing's off the table. But what we are signalling through our scope is that we don't have the scope control. You know, our suppliers will be none the wiser to who may be applying and how that would work, and that's why it's at this moment in time out of scope. But you know, where we have an all Wales solution or a decision, you know, as best as we can, we will want to try and join the dots, and that'd be the guiding principle I'd say on that one.
Okay. Next question then is, do paramedics currently log onto systems using an NHS physical and/or virtual smart card?
We don't generally use the smart cards. Generally, there's a NHS Wales identifier which staff use to log on to various systems. I don't think that's true for all systems, but in the most part, many of the systems are done through that. And we also have personal identifiable indexes for our staff to log in. So we have different ways of doing it. So no one answer there, I'm afraid. But the smart cards are certainly not seen a few of them around for a few years yet.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, a couple more, I think, just on email. I think these are actually, some of these are actually asking for sort of some more specific information, which I'm not sure that we can cover very well on Q&A. So, for example, community first responders, can you provide more information on how community first responders are currently involved in the pre-hospital setting?
Absolutely. So our community first responders, or CFRs, as we know them internally, are our volunteers out in our communities who will respond to 999 calls. There's a selection of case codes that they will respond to, and they will go and visit our patients and provide an assessment to their scope of practice, which they'll have gained through their training with us. They are they are part of Team WAST. That's our approach, and we actively encourage as many CFRs in communities as we can and to log on and to be part of Team WAST. I would say a big kind of evolution of the role has been providing those people with more skills, so we have more enhanced clinical care being delivered by CFRs than we maybe did 10 years ago. And also what I think would be fair to say is, given the NHS pressures and system flow, is that our CFRs are doing more than ever before. So they're going to visit people for some extended periods of time, where an ambulance is quite some way off coming to back them up. So our CFRs are in a position where they are looking for solutions, the technology or different equipment which would enhance that ability to provide care. A huge benefit that we see our CFRs provide for our clinicians sat in our control centres, our clinical support desk clinicians, is that communication and that dialogue that they have between each other. So the fact that the CFR is there and able to provide an eyes-on view of what's going on and provide some basic observations is a real change for our clinicians sat in the control centre, and it empowers them to make different decisions about what they can do to care for that person in a different way. Arrange for care to be brought to the house, or integrate them with the GP surgery, or indeed carry on and bring the ambulance in. So they're a big part of Team WAST. We'd be really interested to see where we could go with that, and how we can further strengthen our volunteer arm of our organisation. We have a volunteer strategy which will add to the useful documents folder for people to read.
Yeah, because following on from that, the next couple of questions then are specifically relating to things like, how do they communicate with ambulance services and other healthcare professionals? Are there any existing technologies or systems that are used to support their work? Can you elaborate on the type of information that they typically capture during initial screening, and how that information is used to inform patient care? Are there any challenges or pain points associated with the current processes for capturing and sharing this information? So I don't know if this is sort of detail you want to go into, or if you are going to put some information together maybe that can be put onto the Simply Do page.
Yeah, that would be my preference. We'll take all those questions and we'll provide some answers, and where we can link it to various documents, so people can see. Yeah.
Okie dokie. And then ambulance availability and location. Can you provide more information on how ambulance availability and location are currently tracked?
Yes. Okay. So we have very much connected to computers these days. So long gone are the days where we had a map and ambulances and sticks to move them around. It's all digitally tracked through GPS, and that informs where they are, what tasking they're on, where they are in that patient journey. i.e., are they en route to an incident? Are they at the scene? Are they on way to the hospital? Are they at the hospital? So we have a very good live information on where the ambulances are, how far they are away from an incident or a call that's come in, and percentage-wise, we can work out what resources we've got available. It will come as no surprise to anyone around availability of ambulances at the moment, and is a real challenge for us. Not least because of the system pressures and, of course, industrial action also in more recent weeks. So it's difficult to articulate kind of where we are, but we do have utility measures. We seek to provide so many ambulances and move them around strategically to where we believe calls will come in. That's not done through artificial intelligence as such. We've modelled where that should be, and then we've set preset sites. It's not a live kind of dynamic picture, but certainly we know where to put ambulances. We cover certain population areas. I hope that answers the question. If there's any more specific, we'll be happy to pick that up in the response on the useful documents.
Yeah, because the next question is very much related to that, which I think you've sort of covered in a way. Are there any technologies or systems that are used to provide real-time updates on ambulance status, which is exactly what you've just been talking about, really. So maybe again, that's something we can just attach to the Simply Do page. A couple more questions. I think we're working our way through. We're coming very close to the end now. Can we integrate with 999 or 111 services?
So we're looking for solutions that work in the 999 space and the 111. They're all team WAST. They're all welcome. In terms of the, it depends on what it is. In terms of technology integration and suppliers, that's all part of the conversation, which I know is a hot one. But yeah, we're looking for ideas in both of those areas, and of course our non-emergency transport scheduling. James mentioned of how we could do things differently and schedule unscheduled care. We're interested in all of that. So think whole organisation. It's not just 999. It's the whole piece. Great
stuff. Can we think of a solution that can be used by community first responders? Yep. And when we talk about AI, to what level can we think of a solution with AI?
I think this is where, James, you might have a different bit. I think this is where industry can probably teach us a lesson or two. We have got vast amounts of data in various forms and structures, and I think that's where industry and academia will probably be able to advise us, and we're highly interested in that.
Yeah, we've got one last question. Apologies, anybody has their hands up, but all the mics and cameras are off, apart from presenters today. So one last question here. Can you provide information on the current usage of the Good Sam app in Welsh A&E departments, and how has it been integrated into existing systems?
Yeah, we can. We'll take that question to the document response, if that's okay, and we'll get the figures for where we are with it. And certainly that was impacted quite heavily by the pandemic. So we'll be keen to give people context of how it's changed over the years.
Yep. Well, I think I've covered all of the questions that that have popped up in front of me anyway. So apologies to anybody if anything's missed, but I will go through afterwards just to make sure that all of these questions are covered one way or another, and we will be publishing the answers on the Simply Do page as well. So thanks very much. Thanks very much, both.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joy. Josh, was there something you wanted to add? You just put your camera on.
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. So massive thank you to today's speakers and everybody who attended. So if you, for any of those people that didn't get their questions answered, and maybe the function wasn't available to them, please just email us at sbri.coe@Wales. The email address is there on the screen. You can find it on the portal as well. That's the application portal link there as well for anybody who wants to apply, which is the challenge brief that Josh went through. And you can find us on Twitter as well for any updates. So again, thank you for everyone who attended. We're very excited to see your ideas and the applications that have come in. So best of luck to everybody, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for everyone's time this morning.
Thank you.
Cheers. Take care now.
Bye. Bye.